just got to see what's officially, I guess, kind of the first movie of 2025. I feel like everything I've seen the last week has just been kind of those lingering 2024 movies that bleed into the first couple weeks in theaters of the new year. But yes, I have seen The Wolfman, the brand new horror film, the brand new Universal Monsters film coming from the same guy that made the other newer Universal monster movie called The Invisible Man. Remember like 7-8 years ago, there was that Tom Cruise Mummy movie and they were going to do this big Universal Monsters sort of connected universe? Well, that movie bombed. So now their new decision is to let this dude make these kind of weird, modernized horror movies centered around these ideas, right? Centered around these Universal monsters, but throwing in like a modern twist and really going into the horror roots of these characters. When it comes to The Invisible Man, I absolutely loved that film. It was a film that took the concept of what The Invisible Man is, and it really did something extremely unique and different with it. It was a different kind of slasher, sort of stalker horror movie that had great performances, some really shocking moments. And like, was it a perfect movie? No, but it was definitely extremely entertaining and like a much better film than anything involving the Invisible Man really has a right to be, especially when it comes to horror. Unfortunately, The Wolfman, I can't say the same thing about this one. As you've read in the title, I found this one to be a complete snooze fest and kind of a wasted opportunity because there's a lot of ideas here and a lot of stuff in this movie that signal that somewhere in this beast was a really, really solid movie about the Wolfman that would have been a great follow-up to The Invisible Man, and be another great Universal monster flick that would hopefully lead to more of these types of things. Unfortunately, what we get is a very generic, predictable movie, a movie that really follows the exact beats you expect it to go down from the moment the movie starts, and the film just never really goes anywhere interesting or shocking or unique, and it doesn't do anything with the concept of the Wolfman that feels like it's new or risky, like The Invisible Man did. It's not bending genres, it's not reinventing what the Wolfman actually is as a visual phenomena or what it is to the characters around it. Instead, it's just kind of a boring zombie movie in a weird way. So The Wolfman is about this family, this husband and wife who take their daughter over to this cabin in Oregon because they are recovering this because the dad's father had died and they want to take his stuff and bring him back home. And when they go, of course, if you watch the trailers, you know what happens. They encounter a wolfman. And the father gets infected and essentially have a whole movie about him dealing with the fact that he's sort of turning into the wolfman. If you didn't tell by the trailer, essentially it works like The Walking Dead, like zombies. You get infected, you're going to turn into one of those things, which basically means you're kind of dead. So the movie is both a sort of a trapped in this cabin being stalked by these dangerous monsters, as well as a transformation into the monster type of movie. It's studying both those aspects, but unfortunately I just found that this movie didn't do either of those aspects very, very well. The first compliment I will give is to the prologue of this movie. This movie has a fantastic opening act, specifically its prologue, which takes the movie back into the past, and it kind of shows you just a very simple horror sequence between this father and son who are on a hunting trip as they encounter a wolfman-type creature. And I will say, this sequence alone demonstrated the immense talent from everybody involved, specifically the director here, how they are able to build suspense and do a relatively terrifying scene with this concept. The scene was shot brilliantly and the horror elements of it all really, really worked, and I kind of wish the whole movie had been a focus on those two characters, a father and son dealing with this thing and this mystery that is going on within the woods. I feel like that would have been a much more interesting movie, but instead, it goes somewhere else. But even when you get the actual characters the movie's going to be dealing with and you get into the first act of the film, even that actually works. Them discovering what's sort of going on in the early parts of the movie really, really work. But once it starts getting into this movie that's about this transition, this guy who's infected and he's becoming the Wolfman, it just becomes a bore. I found myself dozing off throughout this movie multiple times, and it's just because there's not much happening, and when there are things happening, it's all stuff that you've seen before and that you kind of expected to see based on the trailers and the billions of other movies that literally follow this exact same mold. It's the main problem with this movie is easily the screenplay. The screenplay feels afraid to go anywhere interesting with this concept, to do anything new or bold. It seems more content with just telling a generic sort of monster movie rather than doing something inventive like The Invisible Man did. Now, the direction here I actually think is great. The director does a great job of building tension in these scenes and doing interesting things with the camera despite them not having a lot to work with the script that they've actually got. And I could say the same thing about the actors. I'm a big fan of Julia Gardner. I think she's an absolute rock star in this industry and she's going to be amazing over the next decade in whatever she does. And here she's fine. I don't think she's given a lot of juicy stuff to work with. There's a lot of scenes that just don't make sense for her character. Her character herself is really kind of a dummy. I mean, she makes a lot of really bad decisions and does a lot of dumb stuff, but I think with what Julia Gardner was given, she does a solid job here. Same thing with Christopher Abbott. I think he also does a really, really good job. He had a little bit more fun with his character. I feel like that's a more fun character to play. I mean, you're playing the Wolfman, and he does a good job. But I think the script just fails both actors the same way I think the script sort of fails the director here. I think the material that they're just working from is a bore. It's just, it's a nothing burger. It's trying to tell this story about this father and his relationship with his family and trying to hold on to himself despite what's going on. And it's just a relationship. It's a movie about families, right? And that love that a father and their child might have and a family might have together, but none of it really sticks or lands. And the actual stuff that's going on within this family being attacked by these wolfmen, none of it feels new or inventive or interesting or even like in tone with the concept of the Wolfman. It just feels like a boring zombie movie that you've seen a billion times before, and because of that, it doesn't work. I actually think this movie would have worked better if the title of the film wasn't The Wolfman, if it was something else and you didn't know it was a Wolfman movie until the end of it, because I think the fact, like, this movie plays itself out like you don't know what's going on. Like, the audience doesn't know these monsters that are hunting them are Wolfmen, and that this guy is turning into one. Like, it plays on the idea that the audience is not in the know, but unfortunately the movie is called The Wolfman. So the audience is in the know. It was almost like in The Invisible Man, like, the audience knows that this movie is about some sort of invisible man, and it plays into the idea that the audience knows what's going on, and the characters around them maybe don't, and it uses that as a way to tell a very unique version of that story. Here, they don't really do that. They play it off like the audience is just as dumb as the characters actually experiencing what's going on, and it doesn't work. It's just not interesting enough. I wish they actually found a more inventive way to do the Wolfman concept other in the same light that they did The Invisible Man. Maybe make it more scientific, make it something more mainstream, put the Wolfman in the middle of Manhattan or something. Like, I don't know. They could have done something a little more interesting than this. This just ended up being really boring and kind of a slog. It's a totally acceptable movie that I think some general audiences will probably have a decent enough time with to feel like they weren't ripped off out of their money. Like, this movie doesn't do anything egregiously bad. It's not awful in any way, shape, or form. It also has a really unique score that's underutilized. It's weirdly amazing. It's like an Oscar-y score that only shows up periodically. Kind of blew my mind. This is just a film that's meh. It's a film that was boring. It's a film that's going to be extremely forgettable in the grand scheme of this year. I guarantee you, within a month, I'm going to forget that I even watched this thing. I'm forgetting what I'm even talking about right now. What movie? What am I reviewing? Ah, The Wolfman. Okay, let's score this thing. I will give The Wolfman a 2 out of 5. I was actually pretty disappointed by this one. Mainly because I do really love The Invisible Man. I will go in defense of that movie to the day I die. I love that thing. I think it's so original and such a unique take on that concept, and I was really looking forward to this one, and little let down. 2025, not off to a good start. Hey guys for watching, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more. Tell me what you think of The Wolfman down below, and I'll see you in the next one.